guys, welcome back to Crab Central Station. Today we have a super important video on basic hermit crab care. But first,
warning, if you've already purchased something that says hermit crab on it, or maybe you brought it home from the beach shop or the pet store where you got your hermit crab, you do not want to use it. Throw it away or take it back. It's probably harmful to your hermit crab or poisonous in some way or another.
absolutely. And now that we've got that out of the way, let's move into 10 basic things that you're gonna need to have a happy Hermie in your home. Okay, so let's talk about tank size. And this is one of the most basic but important things that you're gonna need to keep in mind when you're setting up your crab's habitat. So if you're deciding whether you should keep them in this little tote that you probably bought them home in, the answer is no. First of all, this thing is tiny, 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 tiny. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's really, really small. And I would not want to live in this if I was a hermit crab. So we like to do the 10 gallons per crab rule. So 1 crab, 10 gallons, 2 crab, 20 gallons, and so on and so forth. That's going to keep your crabs really happy and give them enough space to truly thrive. So one thing that we really struggled with when we talked about upgrading our hermit crab tanks from these or the bucket that we originally had them in to tanks was pricing. Tanks can be super expensive at full price, but we have a couple tips and tricks for y'all to get tanks that are marked down. Check Facebook Market. Check Craigslist for secondhand tanks. That's what we usually do. You can find them for free or for super knockdown prices, and then you just have to clean them out. Also, PetSmart and Petco run dollar per gallon sales, so you'll be saving a lot of money if you want a newer tank. So those are just a couple things that we like to do periodically, just check in and see if we can get a really good deal on a tank.
Hermit crabs are really social. It doesn't seem like it based on their name, but they are. So you're going to need to get a buddy for your friend if you haven't already. Something to keep in mind is that they communicate with each other, and so they actually need a friend that is the same species that they are. The two most common species that you're going to find here in the United States are purple pinchers and Ecuadorian. So again, the least amount of hermit crabs you ever want to own are two of the same kind of species.
Okay, so now let's talk about the substrate, which is going to be the bedding, if you will, of your tank. So we like to do a 5-to-1 ratio of play sand, which you can find at Home Depot, to something called Eco Earth. Now you want to make sure that you are not getting calcium sand or calci sand. That is usually in the hermit crab aisle at pet stores, and it is not safe for them. So make sure you're getting the play sand. And then Eco Earth you can find at Petco, PetSmart, online, anything like that. And we mix it together with that 5-to-1 ratio. And you're going to want to make sure that it's at least 6 inches deep. We like to go a little bit higher with ours. We like to do 8 to 10 inches. Some people even like to do 12, but 6 inches for sure. You want to make sure that you're getting deep enough in your tank so that your crabs can molt.
Something that is very important to consider in your crab habitat is heat and humidity. After all, your crabs are from the tropical area or Caribbean area, and so they live in a humid environment, and you're going to need to create that in their crab habitat. The way you do that is with a heat mat. You are not going to place it on the bottom of the tank, but instead on the back wall of your tank. And you want to go ahead and measure the size tank that you get, the whole width, as well as the height after you put in your substrate. So if you do 6 inches of substrate, measure from the top of that line to the top of your tank and the width, and that's the size heat mat that you want to get for your tank. Then the second thing that you need to look at is your humidity. And the way that you get this in your tank is by having a completely sealed tank. So you can use a glass lid, which you can find at your local pet stores, which are actually pretty inexpensive. Some of your tanks may come with a lid that's kind of in a tank kit, and those will work out fine as well. Just make sure that there are no holes. Sometimes they have holes for tubing and things like that for fish aquariums. And if that's the case, you're going to want to cover those up with some tape or craft mesh or something like that. For one, your crabbies like to climb and they can escape if you have any holes, but also, again, the main thing we're talking about here is humidity, and so you need a completely sealed tank in order to have that. Now the ranges you're looking for if you have purple pinchers is a 75% humidity and 75 Fahrenheit heat. If you have Ecuadorian crabs, they require a little bit more humidity at 85% and a higher heat at 85. So that's what you're going to need to look for, which means, of course, you're going to need a gauge so that you can keep an eye on those things. So make sure you pick one of those up as well.
Okay, so I need water, you need water, and hermit crabs need water. But hermit crabs actually need two different types of water because in their natural environment, they have salt water and they have fresh water. So a way to make this happen in your tank is to get bowls. You want to make sure that they're deep enough that your biggest hermit crab can completely submerge themselves and take a swim. So in these bowls, in one of them, you're going to want to put salt water. And the way that you can do this is by ordering something called Instant Ocean. You can get this online, in pet stores, and you just mix it up with the directions on the back and put that in their tank. And then for the fresh water, you can just get tap water out of your sink and then get a substance called Prime, which you can find in the same exact locations, and mix it up how you're supposed to and put that in the tank as well. So your Hermes can swim and be happy, and they have the two different types of water that they need.
So what about that sponge they gave me when I got my hermit crabs at the beach shop?
Do not use that sponge. I don't know why they give them to you. Hermes love to swim. They're not going to drown. They have modified gills, and the sponges can mold and get pretty gross. So don't use them. Throw them away. Just make sure that you have a way in and out of your tank so that your hermit crabs don't drown. They can get out if they need to.
So your hermit crabs need to have a 12-hour day cycle as well as a 12-hour night cycle, just like we need, just like they have in nature. So the way that you're going to create that is with a light, and a cheap way to do it is just a desk lamp. Maybe you have one in your bedroom. You can bring it out and set it next to your tank. Turn it on in the morning, turn it off at night. Pretty simple. You might also have an aquarium light that came with the kit when you bought your tank. Those will work as well. Something you do not want to use is a heat lamp, which you will find by the hermit crab section at your pet store, and you will find it in the reptile section in the pet store. Hermit crabs do not need a heat lamp because remember we talked about using the heat mat. The reason the heat lamp is not a good idea is it zaps out your humidity in your tank, and it creates hot spots in certain sections of the tank, which is harmful to your hermit crab.
It can also break the top of your lid, which we have had happen. So really just avoid the heat lamps. Okay, so of course they need water, but they also need food, obviously. But don't be giving them any of the pellets that you're gonna find in the hermit crab section. I know this is a reoccurring theme, but guys, they're toxic and they will kill your crabs. So don't be giving them the pellets. You really wanna be giving them vegetables and fruits and...
I think we created a video about this already.
You're right. Okay, so she's right. We already have a super in-depth nutrition guide for hermit crabs that we've already posted on our channel. We'll link it down below, and then you can just watch that after you're done with this video. It's super, super helpful.
Hermit crabs use shells as their homes, and they carry them around. That's what protects their soft abdomen. But as they molt and grow, they need a bigger shell. So it's really important that you keep a variety of natural shells in their crab habitat at all times. The suggested amount is 5 shells per hermit crab that are all in the same size that your hermit crab currently is. And so as they grow, you have to add 5 new shells in the correct size. This helps from shell jacking, which can be deadly to your hermit crab. And so it's really important that you offer them shells that they like and shells that will fit them.
Now you mentioned natural shells. What about the super pretty painted ones that I found at the beach shop and at PetSmart?
Yeah, so although they're cute, agreed, that's kind of how we picked out our first crabs actually, was based on the character or what their shell looked like. And then we learned that that paint is actually toxic. It's not pet safe. And hermit crabs modify their shells as they wear them, which means they pinch off parts of the shell, which means toxic paint is being pinched off and possibly ingested. So that is not a good thing for your crab to have at all. So you're gonna have to get rid of those painted shells. Now don't force your hermit crab out. Once you add those natural shells to your crab habitat, they'll move. Naturally move over.
Yes. Yep, stick to natural. Okay, so now let's talk about one of our favorite parts of owning hermit crabs, which is decoration. Now every part is fun, but we really, really, really like to decorate the tank. So try to keep in mind that hermit crabs are land crabs. So they're on trees and they're climbing and they're on vines and they're walking. So we really try to emulate that in our tanks. And how we do that is we go to the pet store and we look for things that they can climb on, you know, fake logs, artificial plants, and we put those all over the tank. They can hide in them, they can climb all around them. And then we also like to get a hamster saucer, not the wheel, but the actual saucer. They come in big, medium, small sizes. Just get the kind that fits your tank. They like to walk miles and miles and miles. They can walk up to 10 miles a night. So they really do get on top of that saucer and they will walk all night long, and several of our hermit crabs love to do that. So those are just some ideas that we really like to use in our tanks.
A couple things to keep an eye out for as you start to collect these items to decorate. You do not want any kind of exposed metal, because remember, you have a high humidity in your tank along with the salt water that is in there, and those two things make rust. And so you definitely don't want that for your hermit crabs. The second thing is, as we talked about paint on shells being toxic, it's the same for decor. If it can chip off into the tank or the hermit crabs can pinch at it and grab the paint off of the decor, you want to go ahead and leave that out. All right, so maybe you're feeling really overwhelmed. I know we did when we brought our hermit crabs home. But just keep in mind, we gave you 10 basic things to keep in mind so you can get your Crabitat up and running and your Hermes will be super happy. In review, the 10 items were: hermit crabs are social, tank size, substrate, humidity, light, water, heat, food, shells, and the decor that you put in your tank.
That's right, and those are just the basic things. We're gonna be coming out with multiple videos on each of these 10 things in the future, and we're going to elaborate on them and really dive in deep so that you can not only have Hermes that are surviving, but Hermes that are thriving. So this is just the basic level, but you're already on the great track for success. All right, so that's all we have for you today. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will bring you more videos in the future. Bye.
Bye.